What's up, you fucking retards? Today we're going to be talking about something I'm passionate about, and that is the Monsterverse. Now, I haven't made any videos about it in the past the way I have made about Transformers, but I truly have grown a love and appreciation for the Monsterverse ever since the release of Godzilla vs. Kong in 2021. Because when I tell you the trailer first dropped, I fucking nutted all over myself. I jizzed all over the couch, because just the pure idea of a 300 something foot tall ape and a 300 something foot tall lizard that can blow shit up and light himself on fire, beating the absolute shit out of each other, seemed amazing to me. It embodied everything I loved: scientifically impossible action, lovable characters using normal IPs, and bloodless carnage, just violence for no fucking reason, as buildings in the background of cities get laid to all living waste. And when I say I busted the fattest fucking nut to that, I mean I busted the fattest nut. There was jizz on the pillow, jizz on the blankets, jizz on the floor, jizz on the walls. There was so much semen, you could probably impregnate 13 different women with it. But we're not here to talk about my horniness over the concept of monsters beating the shit out of each other. I guess we technically, or that's not the point. We're here to talk about the future of what could come next after the Monsterverse. Now, it is well known that there are three Monsterverse projects in development as we speak. The first one being a sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong that Adam Wingard will presumably return to direct. The second is the Apple TV Plus series, a shitty streaming service that my mom has because she's a simp for Apple, that will possibly follow Godzilla and the origins of the characters like Rodon and Mothra, and a Netflix series with under the working title of Monarch that could possibly follow Monarch agents interacting with the world that the Monsterverse has set up. Now, with all three of those coming out, I think they will all come out around 2023, 2024. And I personally think the sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong will most likely be released in 2023. But I'm here to make assumptions about what could come next. The Monsterverse has already concluded its first phase. Godzilla in 2014, which set up the world. Kong Skull Island in 2017, which set it up further and provided origins to characters. Godzilla King of the Monsters, which served as a final hour preview to Godzilla vs. Kong, introducing popular characters from the supposed Big Five, such as Rodan, Mothra, and of course King Ghidorah. In Godzilla vs. Kong, where the two characters that the franchise was built upon finally met, beat the shit out of each other, one killed the other, then came together to fight a threat that could possibly destroy the both of them. Basically Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, but even shorter and way more enjoyable. Now, with this first, I guess you could call it, phase out of the way, obviously the next phase will possibly start with either the Netflix Monarch series or the Apple TV Plus series that could possibly follow the origins of characters in the Monsterverse, and I have many theories about what could come next. And I don't mean just villains. The villains that could come next could very easily be a video of its own, and since this could possibly be the first of a new wave of Monsterverse videos that I'm going to be making, I thought I might as well take this time to talk about two things that I wish I desperately want to happen. The first is a crossover with Pacific Rim, the most unlikely, but I'm holding out hope. If Toby and Andrew can return in Spider-Man No Way Home, there could possibly be a Pacific Rim crossover in the future of the Monsterverse. And the second is the end-all, be-all threat of the Monsterverse as a whole. We're going to start with the second one, because it's easier to explain. We're somewhat on the same level. Now, Ghidorah is the only Monsterverse antagonist to have a main role in 2 films so far, which isn't a lot to say since there's only 4 Monsterverse projects so far, but still. With them being the main antagonist of Godzilla King of the Monsters, and ultimately taking over the mind of Mechagodzilla in Godzilla vs. Kong. So what if King Ghidorah is the preview to something even more dangerous? Now, most people think Destroyer will be the next big antagonist, or Biollante, but there's a certain 8-headed kaiju member of Ghidorah's species that could possibly show up. Well, in the traditional roles he's played in past incarnations of the franchise, he's simply just been a serpent that mutated. But given the fact that the Ghidorah in this continuity is an alien, it could very really mean that this particular character could come back. Like, Ghidorah is dead, while the skull inside of Apex's headquarters. We don't know what happened to it, but I personally believe that Monarch would either confiscate it or destroy it. Mechagodzilla is beheaded and destroyed, so there is a very possible way Ghidorah could come back as Mecha King Ghidorah, as most people want him to. But I personally believe that the eight-headed kaiju with the Japanese name that I can't pronounce because I'm fucking retarded is going to make an appearance. Now, if you pay attention to Monsterverse lore, you know King Ghidorah is an alien, like I just mentioned, who flew to Earth with the intentions of hostilely terraforming it, and obviously the natural protectors of it, like Rodan, Godzilla, and Mothra, defeated him and imprisoned him underground to keep him from succeeding in this. But, since he's an extraterrestrial, it only makes sense if he is from a world with other members of a species can do the same. What if the Zillions, the human-like aliens seen in most Godzilla projects, live on the same world as King Ghidorah and his species? And what if that eight-headed kaiju, whose name I can't remember or pronounce, will come actively looking for him? Imagine if King Ghidorah is basically the son or brother of this eight-headed kaiju. He was barely through puberty, resulting in him only having 3 heads. And that kaiju looking for him, which I'm just going to dub 8 heads. 8 heads actively comes looking for his family member or possibly a member of the royal hierarchy, remember, King Ghidorah, and comes looking for him. Now, Ghidorah already beat Godzilla's ass twice. Once in Godzilla, King of the Monsters, where he barely was able to defeat him without the help of Mothra being killed and being absorbed into him. And second in Godzilla vs. Kong, to where Godzilla already tired himself out in the fight, got his ass beat by Mechagodzilla, and then Kong had to step in to save him. Now, imagine how an 8-head would fare against Godzilla. Now, when I say the ass whooping that would happen would be brutal, I mean the ass whooping that would happen would be brutal. If he finds out that Ghidorah was killed not once, but twice, that could mean an all-out extinction event for Earth. And possibly the Zillions could follow him and possibly seek revenge. Maybe 8-head is the leader of the Zillions. Maybe they all report to him because of his enormous power. What if he's even larger than Ghidorah? And instead of being 521 feet, the bastard is thousands of feet tall. Now, it could be like an Avengers Endgame type threat. Something to end the Monsterverse or usher it into a new era of awesomeness. And I think that could work. So here's the setup for a movie that I'm going to basically call Destroy All Monsters, but without Destroyer. So 8 heads begins wondering where the hell King Ghidorah is. He flies, he locates where Ghidorah was, his last location, flies to, because you know they can travel through space, flies to Earth, finds Godzilla, and finds out that Ghidorah was killed, placed inside of a robot body, then killed again. He gets fucking pissed and he starts laying waste. And he beats Godzilla to the point of where he is nearly killed. This is when the other characters step in. Now, Kong has presumably already had his adventure in the Hollow Earth, since Godzilla vs. Kong sequel is most likely going to be called Son of Kong. So if Kong is still alive, he's probably going to step in to help fight. Mothra also laid an egg, as revealed in the credits of Godzilla King of the Monsters. So, Mothra's egg, which basically become a new version of her, would probably step in as well alongside Kong, possibly Rodan as well to help defend them. So it's basically the 3 of them against 8-head, and they all almost fucking die. They wouldn't have the firepower. Humans wouldn't have the firepower to take down something that is way more powerful than King Ghidorah. So it would result in a mass extinction event where Earth is almost laid to fucking waste, with human society on the brink of collapse and the government barely being able to push them back. They would have to get something else, something as powerful, to help them destroy it. And they would gather up all of the monsters they know. Every monster, Godzilla will subjugate them. Every monster in the Hollow Earth, Kong would lead them alongside Godzilla. Mothra would probably fly off around the Earth looking for some of her buddies to help them. Rodan would just be, there to help fight him because of how fast he can fly and how powerful he is. And they would all rally together to try and force 8-head off of Earth. Now, I know people think Destroyer would make more sense as the biggest antagonist to end off the Monsterverse, but I think 8-head would serve better. Because imagine something that looks like Ghidorah, but has more heads and is as powerful, if not more powerful, than Ghidorah in the first place. Imagine him serving as the main antagonist of the last Monsterverse film. Hell, the film could be finished and sliced in half the way Infinity War and Endgame is. Let's say at the end of the first half of the two movies, well, I guess the ending of the first movie, Ghidorah overpowers Godzilla. He severely injures Kong to where he has to escape, and Mothra is killed once again by him, luckily laying an egg in her place. He ultimately has him on the ropes, and then, boom, he knocks Godzilla down. They trick us into thinking they kill Godzilla, but ultimately he's still alive. But towards the end of the film, all hope is lost. Civilization is on the brink of collapse, and they have nothing to help defend themselves. And then, end of the movie. Post-credit scene, you see something wake up in the water. You see the water bubbling, and then you see something poke its head out of the water. Destroyer. Boom. End of the first movie. Second movie, basically the monsters trying to rally themselves together, get all the troops ready to fight Eight-Head and destroy him. And then the Zillions show up and start fucking shit up. So basically it's a split. The split is between the first half of the film would follow the humans trying to rally their weapons and their technology together, governments putting aside old bets to come together and successfully fight off the Zillions that have recently showed up looking for war, or the Zillions want to help them fight King Ghidorah because they want to knock Ghidorah off and ultimately take control back from their planet, because Ghidorah would serve a kind of purpose. And by Ghidorah, I don't mean Ghidorah because he's dead. I mean Ghidorah's species. Instead of Godzilla, like Godzilla is on Earth, where he actively tries to protect us when creatures try to subjugate us, or destroy us, or could result in us being injured in some way, and our society collapsing. What if Ghidorah and his species subjugated them, rose from the ground and conquered them and forced them to serve their bidding, which would be providing them with the technology capable of going to other planets and forcefully and hostilely terraforming them. So either we work together against the Zillions or we fight against them. Destroyer could serve as a de facto main antagonist of the film, where he would ultimately help the monsters overpower and kill Eight-Head, but then he would go off, with him becoming the ultimate main antagonist, the end-all be-all antagonist of the Monsterverse. In the last Monsterverse film, and possibly Monsterverse Phase 3, the bastard is back, and he wants business, and he wants to fuck Godzilla's shit up. Now, that's the first thing of what the Monsterverse, where I would want the Monsterverse to ultimately continue to. The second thing would be, like I said, the Pacific Rim crossover. It's incredibly unlikely, but considering the fact that both franchises are owned by Legendary Pictures and Warner Media, it could possibly work. As shown in Pacific Rim and Pacific Rim Uprising, we know that the kaiju that invade Earth come from another dimension or another universe, because a dimension and a universe are swapped out by Hollywood because hack writers don't know how the fuck to use them properly. But they come from another universe, or possibly a pocket universe, and they want to come into Earth to conquer us and wipe humanity off the chessboard, if you know what I mean. So, since the Monsterverse is basically confirmed to have other planets with life on them through the existence of King Ghidorah, what if the kaiju featured in Pacific Rim are actually coming from the Monsterverse, except another planet? It could work, because at the end of Pacific Rim Uprising, the son of the black guy from the first film, I haven't watched Pacific Rim in like 2 weeks, and I haven't watched Pacific Rim Uprising yet. Make sure to let me know in the comments if you want me to watch Pacific Rim Uprising and talk about it. They say that they're planning on going through the rift and fucking up the kaiju in a way to where they can't return. So what if they ultimately travel through the rift once again and it malfunctions, backfires, and instead of ending up on their planet, they end up on Earth? Or even better, when they come to the planet to get to the kaiju, they see that it's already been hostilely terraformed by Ghidorah's species. Since Ghidorah wants to do it, it would make sense if other members of his species wants to do the same. They see that it's already desecrated, and the kaiju species that existed on it are either enslaved or were ultimately wiped out by them. And ultimately, they arrive on the Earth of that universe, to see that kaiju that are far more powerful than any of the shit they have coming into their universe are just existing. I mean, you obviously got Godzilla, and he could instantly fuck up any Jaeger that attempted to fight him. You got Kong, who could go hand to hand with the Jaeger, possibly win because the bastard is 340 something feet tall. He's a big boy. He a big motherfucker. He can beat some ass if he wants to. Got characters like Mothra and Rodan and fucking King Ghidorah, 521 feet of fucking terror that can fly at the speed of fucking sound if he wants to. The Jaegers would be instantly outclassed, so the Jaegers that travel through the rift could possibly meet up, team up with Monarch, and end up upgrading the Jaegers to not only make them taller but stronger, and ultimately they could get help from Godzilla or Monarch of the Monsterverse universe and help fight off and hunt down the remaining kaiju and destroy the rift that exists between their two universes. Now, this may seem far-fetched, but concerning the fact that lots of people considered Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield returning in Spider-Man No Way Home far-fetched, yet they returned anyway, it's perfectly on the table. It's not even rights distributes. Both movies, the franchises of both the Monsterverse and Pacific Rim are literally owned by the same two corporations. All their movies are literally hosted on the same exact streaming service, so there would be, if they wanted to do a crossover, there's nothing really stopping them from doing it other than Warner Media or Legendary Productions or Legendary Pictures, something like that, just giving them the green light to do it. Now, I don't think it should happen like the next Monsterverse film. I think that's something for like down the line. It could lead into a whole arc, and maybe the Jaegers could help them fight against something bigger, something like, oh, I don't know, Eight-Head or Destroyer. And it could end in one massive blowout fight that concludes the Monsterverse as a whole, or ushers in a new era of characters, possibly other characters from other franchises besides Godzilla and King Kong, you get what I mean. But ultimately, it may be a little too far-fetched, so there isn't a 100% chance or even 50% chance that it could happen. But lots of people are calling for a crossover between Pacific Rim and the Monsterverse, and if that happened, when I say I would jizz all over the floor, I mean I would jizz all over the floor. Like I said before, semen on the walls, semen on the floor, semen on the doors, semen on the dog and the cat. There would be a cum explosion. But we're not here to talk about my porn habits. Anyway, this was me rambling about what I want to happen in the Monsterverse. I guess if you like this video, like, subscribe, comment down below, and get ready for another video on the future of the Monsterverse, which will be about the villains. I don't know when it's going to release, and I don't know what I plan on talking about it, mainly, besides the villains that could appear in it. Anyways, I've been Potato. See you guys next time. Brush your teeth and eat your broccoli.